Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we are joined by LPGA professional golfer and new mom, Amy Olson. Amy, welcome to the show. Tell us about being a new mom. I'm a mom of a 4 and a 6-year-old. How new are you and what's going on with motherhood?
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it. And we are 8 weeks into this journey right now of motherhood.
Oh,
It is everything that everyone says it will be exhausting. The sleep deprivation is real, but so rewarding. And I'm sure you felt it probably even more with your first one, right? Where you just
yeah.
have this immense responsibility to raise this child, and it's a little daunting and overwhelming.
Yeah, it is, and you feel like when you're in it, especially where you are, you're like, will this ever end? Will I ever live life again? And of course you do. Of course you get through it, and then you're like, oh, I don't really remember that it was that bad until you do it again, and you're like, oh yeah, that's how it goes. Well, congratulations. I mean, nothing is greater than being a parent. Honestly, I have had a lot of jobs and a lot of titles throughout my life. And the title that has meant the most to me and that I think is the most important is the title of mom. So congratulations to you. Speaking of, I mean, 8 weeks you're into it, but when you were around 7 months pregnant, there was a bit of a controversy that ensued because you were competing while you were pregnant, but there was a little more to it. Tell our audience about what happened.
Yeah, well, I'll try to explain it the best I can. There's multiple layers. The controversy wasn't that I was competing while pregnant. Many of my fellow competitors have done that, and that's certainly not new. I mean, whether you're a dentist or a CPA or a waitress, like many of us as women, continue to work while we're pregnant, right? And so that wasn't controversial. What was interesting to me was the fact that while I'm competing while pregnant, I garnered a lot of media attention because I was going to be playing in the US Open at Pebble Beach at 7 months pregnant. And everyone was celebrating that, which I thought was phenomenal. I hadn't
Yeah.
had the greatest year so far. So for me to be getting a lot of media attention, it wasn't because of my performance. It was because something special was going on, that I was carrying another life. And in one of my interviews, it was interesting to me because the TV host recognized that instead of 156 players this year competing in the Open, there were going to be 157, players in the field, which, he's making a point and not trying to, make it political by any stretch. But the fact that he recognized that Carly, who at the time was, inside of me, was already a life was interesting, because I think it speaks to the intuitive, you know, we all believe that you're already a mom once you're pregnant, right? You're already
Hmm.
making sacrifices for this person inside of you. Like Carly's life didn't begin on September 15th, when she was born. I felt her develop and grow for those 9 months leading up to that. So for me, that experience and everybody wanting to talk about this unborn baby inside of me contrasted with the year previous when I had played in a major championship outside Washington, D.C., when Roe v. Wade got overturned with a Dobbs decision. And as a female athlete, many of us were asked as we walked off the course that day, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think about women's rights being stripped away, or women's health
Mm.
care? And everything was framed that way. And I simply responded with, when does a woman's life begin? Because to me, if we don't know when life begins, we can't even have this conversation in a rational way. So for me, I wanted to bring up the fact that nobody else was talking about this unborn baby. Like, that's part of the conversation.
Right.
And then you contrast that with a year later, everybody's talking about this unborn baby inside of me while I'm competing in the US Open. So I had these two conflicting experiences that created this cognitive dissonance in me. I'm like, the rules changed. One time I can talk about the baby, one time I can't. And so I brought that up in an interview. And that article where I talked about that and just being conflicted with these two experiences that I'd lived through, that article didn't get published because of my abortion comments and because of my Christian comments. And so
Wow.
the writer who submitted that article to be published ended up walking away from his job because he felt like his journalistic integrity was being violated because he was asked to remove the abortion and Christian comments. So that was kind of the story that happened and why it became controversial. I I self-admittedly made it controversial because I brought up the thing that you can't talk about. And that's when you talk about abortion, you can't talk about the child.
Wow. You know what? It's amazing. I think that people, I've seen previous interviews that you have done talking about this experience, and you kind of said, "Look, I expected to get a lot of scrutiny based on what I said and based on my beliefs and what I was willing to talk about in this article and in this interview." But I guess you never expected, Amy, that they would just completely do away totally with the article altogether and the interview altogether. And I think people look at something like that and they're like, wait a minute, that is supposed to be our First Amendment of the United States Constitution, our freedom of speech. We're supposed to be able to say whatever it is we feel without worry that we are going to be, that we're going to have something happen to us, like, basically be totally silenced like this. I imagine you were shocked whenever this all happened. How did you find out that the writer had actually quit? And by the way, kudos to him, because who wants to work for some sort of an institution that doesn't allow you to actually say what you believe and what you feel?
Well, the writer called me and said, hey, that interview that we did, that story's not going to go through. Here's why, and here's what happened. So he actually felt like it was necessary to follow through with me so that I kind of knew what had happened and where that story didn't go.
Wow.
And so we had a conversation. I was surprised, I think, and I don't know all of the nuance to this. Obviously, it's a media outlet. They can choose what they want to talk about, what they don't want to talk about. I don't necessarily know that it's a First Amendment issue, but at the same time, if they have the right to censor and selectively publish things, I
Right.
also, as a citizen, have the right to make it known to the public that that is what's happening behind the scenes. For
Hmm.
me, the fact that they wanted to stop that conversation actually made me more bold because I realized, like living through 2020, how many leftist athletes came out in support of Black Lives Matter, right? And that was, openly celebrated. I didn't see many conservatives during that time, conservative athletes. And so after I lived through this, I go, okay, is it because they don't exist? Or is it because their story isn't being shared on the media, which is where we would expect to see it. So for me, it was much more of let people know that this is happening behind the scenes so that when they're not seeing it on their TV screens or, on social media, maybe it's not that these athletes don't exist. Maybe they're being censored.
Well, that's exactly right. And I mean, you're right. A media institution of any variety is not the United States government. And I understand that. And they have the ability, of course, to choose what they publish, what they don't, what they put out there and what they don't. But I think what you're talking about with this is part of the problem. And it does start to feel like our rights are being infringed upon whenever people are self-censoring because they're afraid of some backlash. They're afraid of, not having a story published or an article published. They're not able to say what they actually feel. And that is really very upsetting, I think, to see in the United States. It starts to really wear on people, and then they change the way they operate. And I hate to see that sort of thing. So I love that you did what you did and that you were not going to back down from your beliefs. And I think plenty of people would. When you spoke up, though, what was the response you got? I can only imagine people were obviously upset, but you must have gotten a lot of support from people.
I actually got an incredible amount of support. And that's honestly the message that I want to share with other athletes who are on the fence. Should I say something? Should I not? I think so often we're afraid of the retaliation, but there are so many people out there who texted me privately and said, we support you. We are so on board with that. The overwhelming majority of people that I personally know was positive. The backlash and the negativity and the people who are like, oh, what a stupid story. Why would you even, talk about it? That was on social media with people who can hide behind a profile. They might not even have their real
Absolutely.
name. So
Yeah.
I think for me, it
Most
was
of them don't.
recognizing, yeah, the
Yeah.
real people who you know in your life who care about you and who know you as a person, those are the ones that you're going to get support from. And I know there's people who disagree with me on this issue. Absolutely, that I'm friends with. And honestly, they just didn't say anything, and so I didn't receive a huge amount of negativity from people that I have a relationship with. And that's what we have to realize when we have relationship, we can have these hard conversations because it doesn't become us versus them. we still are able to disagree and then go play a round of golf together.
Yeah. And see, I love that. That's what this country is really all about. We don't all have to think alike. And God forbid, I mean, what a boring place the world would be if we all thought the exact same way. But we should have the opportunity to talk about the things that we feel and let other people have their opinions as well. And then come together and play a round of golf or go get coffee or whatever it is. But it's honestly where we are in the country right now, I think is very frightening for a lot of people because it feels like those days may be gone. I hope we see them back. And I love that you took this opportunity to say like, hey, it's okay to speak your mind. It's okay to say the things that you want to say. I love also that you did continue to play golf while you were pregnant. I have, like I said, 2 kids. And I still did a lot of sport related things whenever I was pregnant with them. Both of my kids, and by the way, you probably will tell this to your daughter at some point, like, oh, you played in this, major LPGA tournament while, you were with me. Like you played in it. I tell both of my kids, you guys have both done 2 triathlons already. My daughter has done a half marathon because while I was pregnant with both of them, I did those things. I mean, how cool is it for your daughter that one day you get to tell her all this stuff? I mean, that's got to be so cool as well.
Yeah, I'm so excited for that. I mean, we had a ton of memories from that week, a ton of photos that I'll be able to show her one day and, say you were there, that was you. So I think that is really special. It shows now. I was so active during my pregnancy, and it shows now because she does not like to be still. You put her down, her arms are moving, her legs are moving. The car seat was the only way we could get her to sleep for a while. I'm sure many parents have had that experience. So she likes to be on the move.
Absolutely. And so you live in North Dakota, which I don't think people will typically think about golf when they think about North Dakota. I live in Florida, a lot of golfers around here, Amy. As you can imagine, kind of weather you probably want to be out putting around in, out on the driving range. What is the golf scene like in North Dakota, though? I imagine that half the year it's kind of tough.
Yeah, I've got a surprising statistic for you. So we have the most golf courses per capita of any state in the nation.
Oh,
wow. Of course,
wow.
we win a lot of things per capita, Laura,
Yeah.
because we don't have very many people. But I think we don't play a lot during the winter, obviously, but we have simulators. We actually had a Top Golf inspired facility that opened here last year. So people are golf crazy, and when the snow melts in the spring, you better believe tee times are booked.
Oh yeah, no, I imagine. So do you do most of the training then indoors for, like I would imagine 4 or 5 months of the year?
Yeah, so I've done this for 10 years now, and I've had a combination. I used to go down to Florida in the winter. When my coach was in California, I would go to California in the winter. So I spend a lot of time. For those who don't know what the life of a professional golfer is like, the last 10 years, I spent 32 weeks on the road, whether that was for training or about 25 weeks for competition. So I'm not, this is my home base. My husband coaches football here at North Dakota State. So this is home base, and I try to be here as much as possible, but I've spent a lot of time on the road seeking the sunshine.
Well, I'll tell you, now that you have a baby, it does change the way you operate in so many instances. I know when I travel anywhere, I really want to take the last possible flight out, right? Because I want to spend the most time with my kids as possible. And then the first flight back. So oftentimes, maybe it'll be a flight where I have just dropped them at school. I'll go to the airport. I'll go do whatever the event is I'm doing, or go wherever I need to go. And then either I'm taking the last flight they have out of the day or the very first flight out that morning. So I imagine you're going to find yourself in a bit of a situation like that, because it always amazed me. And 8 weeks in, you probably already know this, the true kind of drive, like maternal instincts that I remember people telling me about. And I was like, okay, because I really wasn't like a kid person per se before I had a kid of my own. And it's amazing how that all works and how we all kind of change our lives so much. But you work it out and you figure it out and you just adapt. And I imagine you're going to do that now with your 8-week-old baby, and you're going back out on the golf course, right? Or I imagine maybe you're already back to training in some capacity.
Well, it's so funny that you mentioned not being a kid person because, when everybody tells you it's different with your kid, I'm like, it
Yeah,
better be.
I
Because
know.
I love
But
handing them back.
no,
Now I'm
exactly.
like,
I was like, how people were like, you're not going to love those dogs anymore. Cause I'm like a crazy dog lady too. You're not going to love those dogs anymore when you have that baby. And I was like, well, I don't know if I like that. That doesn't sound like a great deal to me. I want to love my dog. So I was like, I don't know about any of this, but you're right. It is different than when they're your own.
100%. Yeah. And
That's so
and I
funny.
recognize that life has changed. I know everybody wants to tell women, you can do it all. I'm not sure you can do it all well. So my husband and I are still
There you
wrestling
go.
through what is this gonna look like? I have top priorities in my life, being a wife, being a mom. We're gonna discuss what competition is gonna look like over this next year. But realistically, my career on the golf course is winding down, and I'm just looking forward to really embracing motherhood for all that it is, and hopefully maybe juggling a little bit of both this next year.
There you go. Yeah, you know what? You're right. You can't do it all. And what always suffers for me, and I feel like this is probably a lot of moms and maybe parents in general out there, is the sleep. I mean, if I am like honestly trying to get everything done that I need to get done for myself, professionally speaking, that I need to get done for my kids to get them ready for school the next day. They throw like a spirit week at me at school, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I needed red socks for Monday, and it's like Sunday afternoon. Those sorts of things. What always suffers is the sleep. So I mean, I'm trying to operate probably on very little sleep. And then Amy, I read all these studies, and they're like, the number one thing you can do to make sure your longevity, you live a long life, and all this, it's all about the sleep. And I'm like, oh God, the sleep is suffering. And you know that better than anyone with a very, very young baby. The sleep tends to suffer, but you will work it out. You will balance it out. And it's wild because you do get to a point where you're like, what did I do with all my time before? And you probably aren't there yet, but you will get there one day. And you'll just be like, this is life and this is how it goes. How's your husband dealing with all of it? I mean, is he getting up at night too, or what's going on?
Yeah, well, so he's in season right now. He's in the middle of football season, which is absolutely nuts. So he already doesn't get a lot of
Yeah.
sleep during
Yeah.
season. And, I'm breastfeeding, so I have to get up anyway. So I've kind of let him sleep during the nights. And when he gets home, he is hands-on dad, changing diapers, doing whatever needs to be done, letting me take a shower, all of that. But I'm also thankful for help. I don't know how much family you had around, but I have my parents
Yes.
close by, first grandchild. So they're obviously willing to come and help whenever, it does take a village. If you want to do, more things, you need help and you need to
Absolutely.
delegate. And the one thing that you see is you're replaceable everywhere in the world except your home, right? Except to your kids, except to your husband. And so I just want to make sure that's my first priority. I'm doing my best job there. And like you said, your capacity increases as you need
Mhm.
to accomplish things and do things. Your capacity grows. And so as we kind of settle into this routine, I'll figure out what that capacity is.
You will. And you know what? I love that you're starting such an exciting chapter of your life. And people used to tell me that and I'd be like, okay, right now it's not very exciting. Like right now I'm just trying to keep my head above water and get through this. But it really is. It's so special. And one day, like I said, you and your daughter will look back on photos and videos of you playing while you were pregnant with her, and so obviously pregnant with her, and it's just such an amazing thing to be able to share. And by the way, if she's anything like my daughter, she's going to want to get out there on the golf course with you as soon as possible. I read that you started playing golf at like 2 years old, right?
Yes, I
Yeah,
actually grew up on a golf course, so I mean it's never too early to start. If you can walk, you
great.
can putt.
Okay, well we'll be looking out. We'll see what's coming. If people want to follow you or see what's going on with you, where can they find you online?
Amy Olson Golf on Twitter and Instagram. X
Okay.
now. Sorry, X.
Oh, yeah. No, but P.S. No one calls it X. I'm always saying this. Like, I love that Elon was
You're
doing,
still
trying to make it different. It's not, it's everyone's like X, formerly Twitter. It's always going to be Twitter. I'm just going with Twitter from now on. So,
I
however
mean,
we
you're
want to
still
say it.
tweeting, right? Like what is
Yeah.
it Xing? Like what is I don't
Xing.
know.
It
No,
doesn't
it's
seem to
tweeting.
work out. I appreciate the attempt he made there, but
Totally.
we're still going Twitter. Amy Olson, thank you for joining us here on The Right View. Congratulations on being a new mom, and good luck with everything to come for you. We will certainly be watching. To everybody at home, as always, thank you for joining us. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View. Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it. So I'm like a lot of people. I love to wear an Apple Watch, but I hate how it looks. And I scoured the internet to search for the best looking Apple Watch cases I could find, and I found it. goldandcherry.com. They have absolutely beautiful watches, as you can see here. Everything is waterproof. Everything looks good with different outfits. You can get sporty, you can get fancy, but they are great quality, made out of Delaware in the United States of America. And they have been kind enough to give me a promo code that I can share with you if you want to get your hands on one of these as well. It's Lara T, L-A-R-A-T is the promo code to get yourself a discount at goldandcherry.com. And not only do they make Apple Watch cases, they also make great products for iPads and iPhones, keyboards, your desktop, everything you could possibly need. Goldandcherry.com. Use promo code LARAT so you can get yourself one of these today too. At The Right View, we're very proud of the fact that we are independent. We get to say everything that we think and everything that we feel. We have no woke companies guiding us or telling us what we can and cannot say. We are always going to shoot you straight and give you the facts as we know them. And that's why it's important to support independent outlets like The Right View. My name is Lara Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. I love MyPillow because not only are MyPillows made in the USA by American workers, but they're great products, and they're so great that not only do I use them in my own bed at night, my children actually requested. My daughter the other day went to the closet and pulled out a MyPillow and said, "This is the pillow that I want to sleep with." And I gotta tell you, she loves it and will have nothing to do with any other pillow. So it's a big hit around our house. My dogs also happen to sleep on MyPillow dog beds. So all around the Trump household, we're big fans. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code Trump, again, promo code Trump, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America. Inflation has impacted all of our lives. I don't think anyone can go to the gas pump or the grocery store without noticing that it is a major factor. And unfortunately, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like it's going down in the way that we would like it to. And one way to protect your money is by investing in precious metals, gold and silver. That's always been a great way to make sure that you keep your money and you keep it safe. When you go to bh-pm.com, use promo code Trump. That way, if you decide you want to invest in gold and silver, you'll save yourself a little bit of money. We live in a time that's very interesting. A lot of us out there feel like a lot of our rights are slipping away. And if you're like I am and you want to have the right to choose whether or not to have a vaccine, how to live your life freely, and you're looking for a great doctor, I've heard amazing things about Dr. Sherwood. He's somebody who you should really check out and check into, and it'll help support this program and keep us going. So go to sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. Again, sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. You can save yourself some money and help us keep our program going.